headlights never seem to change. Day in and day out, they always stay the same. Concrete's growing, the city's moving in, and there's progress for progress' sake. They think they know what's best for us and how to change our backwards ways. We stand for the flag. You can be damn sure that we're thankful for everything we have. We love this land. Every inch paid for by blood and sweat and the strength to take a stand. You might think that it's a relic or a right. Way out here, we still stand for the flag. Men that died, gave their lives, knew what they were fighting for. Sacrifice and innocence left on a foreign shore. These colors still fly here high and proud, the red, the white, the blue. If you think they're coming down, I got some news for you. We stand for the flag. You can be damn sure that we're thankful for everything we have. We love this land. Every inch paid for by blood and sweat and the strength to take a stand. You might think that it's a relic or a right. Way out here, we still stand for the flag. From sea to shining sea, there's still a lot of good old boys like me. We stand for the flag. You can be damn sure we're thankful for everything we have. Love this land. Every inch paid for by blood and sweat and the strength to take a stand. You might think that it's a relic or a rag. Way out here, we still stand for the flag.
Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today, because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting.
Mic in hand, ready for deployment. Podcast feels heavy as the ointment. Veteran tales straight from the trenches. Pop culture splices, pulling down the fences. Homefront Sitrep, stories that collide. Veterans speaking truth, no reason to hide. Gritty and raw podcast on replay, decoding the past, paving the way. War zone whispers, bullets and bombs. Back to civilian ticking like a time bomb. Medals on the mantle, scars on the mind. Every episode another mystery to find. Homefront Sitrep, voices from the fight. Veterans sharing dark, stepping into light. Real life saga, not some fairy tale. Truth and resilience, never gonna fail. Homefront Sitrep, stories that collide. Veterans speaking truth, no reason to hide. Gritty and raw podcast on replay, decoding the past, paving the way. War zone whispers, bullets and bombs. Back to civilian ticking like a time bomb. Medals on the mantle, scars on the mind. Every episode another mystery to find. Legacy 11, backstory of Marines. Army anecdotes, Gulf War scenes. Vietnam echoes, Desert Storm sounds. Podcast chronicles, glory and bounds. Homefront Sitrep, honesty is core. Veterans laying bare what they endure. From the front lines to the homebound grief, episodes of grit. grind through the grief.
Welcome, everybody, to a Monday edition of Homefront Sitrep. How is everybody doing? Gunny, how are you, sir? You're muted.
Is that new mic?
Yeah, well, no, I pushed it because I was talking to the kid when he was in here, and then I forgot to hit the button again as the countdown was happening. So, yeah, new technology, old grunt, you just can't figure stuff out.
Right.
But no, good day here. We had strong winds that came through last night, like very strong winds, heavy rain. No damage in the area for us, north of us. Not so much trees uprooted and snapped off and all kinds of stuff, but everybody seems to be safe within my little circle. And then had the interview for the main veteran thing with Jeff today. Seemed to go very well. He seemed to be pleased with it. So I guess we'll see what the final product looks like next week when he airs it up there in my home state.
Nice. Miss Candace, how are you?
I am here. I came home early from work today, and I've been asleep until about 30 minutes ago because I am having a horrendous flare-up. But
Your
are
MS flaring up on you?
Yeah, these are the things that I am pushing through. But I just decided that I think this needs to be a new game, that Sam needs to see how many hats he can switch out throughout an episode and nobody notice.
One's enough. I got a new hat on today, too.
He switched his hat, Willis.
I know. He did that because the white one was too bright.
Yeah, it happened before, too, and I should have known better. And I just, I've got, 2 stacks of hats over there in the corner that should get me through until maybe June, maybe July.
All right, so that has merchandise and has hats. We need you to send them to Deeds. We need to build up that collection because
Me too.
What are we gonna do?
Bro.
I'll tell you, I'll wear it on the show. I mean, matter of fact, I think I've got some Misfit Nation on today too. Oh yeah.
Misfit Nation.
Since I'm not feeling good, I had to keep my hands in my pockets today.
So you got Air Force
stuff.
I got you.
Yeah, it got a little chilly up here, and I've got the shirt on. I was like, man, I got to go outside and deal with people. I'm gonna throw on a sweatshirt. So rocking Mogadishu Mile sweatshirt today too. So
nice. Yeah, I got a hoodie on. Today was, yesterday was beautiful, or not day before. And then yesterday was not too bad until late last night when the storms came through. And then today I went outside to go to my VA appointment this morning, and I was like, "Holy cow!" I had to throw a hoodie on because I was like, "It's freaking cold out here."
Yeah.
But were you wearing shorts and boots?
No, not today. No. I was off work.
I am in shorts.
Well, that's a Willis thing. He likes to wear his shorts with his boots.
Well,
I don't do the boots, man. I mean, I take that back. If I'm doing yard work, shorts and boots all day, every day. But if it's just, normal everywhere, pair of running shoes, my shorts, sweatshirt, and that's me 90% of the year.
But match up those shorts, those boots, and those bow-legged horse riding.
Right? Oh, I know. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but I've known Willis forever, and you should have seen him doing boots and utes.
There's no video evidence of that anywhere, Gunny.
Right? Yeah, I'm glad we served prior to the social media age. That's all I'm saying. I'm glad we served prior to cell phone cameras and all of that jazz. The only thing that's out there is maybe some stills, but yeah, I'm glad that we served in a time when that stuff wasn't happening. Because I will tell you, I probably wouldn't be a gunny today.
Yeah, right. So we're gonna switch things up just a little bit today, and this is we're gonna put a disclaimer on this episode. Okay, this episode is probably going to pull some heartstrings out there. Today we got Miss Samantha Bassett coming on, and it's going to be one of those that's going to touch your heartstrings. her story, when I first heard it, I was like, holy cow. And not a dry eye was in that TikTok room when she told her story. And man, let me tell you, so fair warning, this is there's going to be some triggers here. She is the wife of a Marine who succumbed to his demons and lost his battle. Um, so it's gonna touch some heartstrings out there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Repetitious.
so be ready for that. Um, and we're just gonna be here. We're gonna love on her. We're gonna get her story out there because it's something that's very impactful. She just got done doing the first poker run in memory of her husband, and it was a very successful event. And she did all this while still grieving for her husband. So
Well,
be ready.
and this is a new topic coming up. Like we were talking pre-show, because this is considered, because he was a veteran. So this is
Yeah.
considered a green star. And that's something fairly new to most people out there. So a learning experience here as well.
So without further ado, let's bring Miss Samantha up to the stage. Welcome, Miss Samantha. How are you?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing wonderful. Doing wonderful. Thank you for
Mhm.
coming on such short notice. I definitely want to get your story out there because what you've done in this last year is amazing because there's a lot of people out there that would sit in a corner and just hide, but you took the bull by the horn and led charge to make change. So that's awesome. So if you don't mind, introduce yourself to the world of Homefront Sitrep, whether it's on TikTok or where else we're live.
Hey guys, my name's Samantha. I am a Green Star widow, which, as we were talking about earlier, I didn't even know what that was before it all happened. But Green Star represents the U.S. military members, retired and active, that we lose, or well, retired side of it. It's the veteran side of suicide that we see. And so, with that, it's mostly been a wild ride. This is still very, very fresh for me. It's very new for me. This happened in Thanksgiving of this past year. And I know you say some people would hide, but let me tell you, I absolutely did sit on my couch and not speak to anybody for about a month. I can't even tell you like how hard it was to like, I think I kept it quiet for like the first 24 hours. I didn't want anybody to know. I was so terrified of like his reputation being ruined by it, how people talk about things like that. So it was extremely scary to come out onto TikTok and try to share my story with everybody. But here we are now.
No,
But here you are now.
Here we are now, just trying to turn, like, I heard that, I can't even remember whose live I was in. I think I want to say it was the veteran guy earlier. I was listening to him talk, and he was talking about how he turned his mess into a message, and that's a really great way of putting it. Because I could sit on that couch and be sad for the rest of my life, but the truth is I'm going to be sad either way, so I might as well be doing something about it. And where I come in on TikTok and everything that I do, I try to fall into the active prevention versus impact relief. I've never tried too much to make this about me or the loss of my relationship. It does affect me dramatically, but more than anything else, it's about the loss of a life, a loss of an amazing, amazing person that I wish that everybody here could have gotten to know.
Mm. Yeah, I can only imagine because I've never been in your situation. You know what I'm saying? I can only imagine what the feelings that you had after he lost his battle, and here you are to pick up the pieces. I can only imagine what you went through,
And I
and
could
like you said, you didn't want to tarnish his reputation and stuff like that. Uh, I can only imagine.
I think you go through an array of emotions. You know, there was so much contributing to the end, and obviously every situation is going to be different. There'll be some people that tell you they never saw it coming, or maybe it was like the world outside of the personal life never saw it coming. And then you have people like me that were like waiting on it to happen over and over again. Like there was a prior attempt, you know? So like every time I walked into that room, I was terrified of walking into that scene until I did, you know? And because of the alcoholism, because of the depression, like it makes you a different person. So when that starts to take over, it tarnishes the way that you treat people, you know. So it makes it very, very difficult right there towards the end. There was a lot of frustration, even on my own side, which made me, in my own way, have my own survivor's guilt, you know, because I have to go back and look at that frustration that I have. And I know that in the end, I was really just protecting myself, you know, like when I was trying to coax him to go in to get help, and I stopped from babying to trying to be a little bit more forceful of like, you have to do this, you have to want to do this for you, like you have to get help, you know, like it can't be for me, it can't be for your mom, like it has to be for you, it has to be because you want it. And so when it first happened, because of the way that that situation was and like how up and down he was, it was one moment, I love you so much. Like, you're my world. You're the only reason I'm here. To the next moment, like, fuck you. I don't want to talk to you. Like, get away from me. Just go away. The isolation of like the pushback of not wanting somebody to stop you or tell you that you're worthy when you're dealing with that type of moral injury that he was dealing with. And he didn't want to, one, bring it on to me, but in the same way, he still used me as that emotional punching bag for a while. And so, with all that being said, I'm absolutely not trying to make him sound like a bad person, because it really was like it was demons that he was fighting. And the only reason that he treated me that way is because he was tormented, not because he wanted to. And I think that played a lot in the fact of like, in the end, he really did think that I would be better off without him, because he could see the way that the sickness and the alcoholism was making him treat everybody around him. And it only played into the moral injury of, I'm not a good person, you know. And like I told him, bad people don't worry about being bad people. So if you are wondering if you're a bad person and that makes you feel bad, then you're probably a good person. You know, you're at least trying to acknowledge that. And when it initially happened, I felt extremely punished. You know, like I felt punished by him for not being able to save him. I felt like he was using it as like a last act of domination on me. Like I was just so angry because it felt like a slap in the face. Like he knew that I would have to find him. He knew that I would be the person there. He knew that I couldn't leave work to get to him. You know, like he knew everything that he did. But in the same sense, the very last phone call I got from him right before it happened, only thing he said to me was, I love you. You know, so it wasn't hateful. It was with love. And in the end, I do believe that he thought that he was giving me my life back, because he knew that I wasn't going to leave him. He knew that I was in it for the long haul. I was going to stand behind him and support him no matter what. I just wanted him to get better. And unfortunately, for the outside perspective on myself and looking into that, like, you want to pick, was it one way or was it the other? Was it the bad thoughts that were intentional? Was it the good? And unfortunately, it was both. They both played a part. It was a little bit of a punishment, but it also was a lot of grace there as well. And it's being able to understand that both sides of that did exist. And that is truly hard to understand and accept.
Yeah, for sure. Mm, I can speak for myself when it comes to my demons that I deal with on a daily basis, and Gunny can speak on his. And we say it all the time that we as humans, we're more apt to talk to a complete stranger about what's going on with us than the ones we love the most, because we want to protect them. And I know every relationship has its up and downs, and there's days that my wife wants to push me down the steps and not see me ever again, you know. But you know, 20 years together, or 23 years together, 20 years married, she's still learning stuff now after being together for 23 plus years, because I'm more with doing this podcast, I'm able to talk about it more, and speaking with other veterans on TikTok and all these other platforms. I'm able to talk to her more about my demons, and she understands why I'm so quick to anger when things don't go. Like if I get a plan in my head, like say Sunday morning when we leave to church, I want to get there. Church is 11:15. I want to leave my house at 10:45, be at church by 10:50 so I can pick my spot where I want to be that day. And if the girls and her are not ready, I'm quick to anger. It's like, hey, we got to go. We got to move. We got to move. And I think I've got better over the course of the last 2 years or so. My wife might tell you differently, but it's one of those things. So let's talk about this poker run, because it's like I said, this is relatively new for you. This what you're doing, and you created a poker run for for his memory. So let's talk about that, because from what I hear, it was amazing.
Well, it was a lot of work. I will not lie to you. I originally went up to my post and I was like, "Hey, this is what I want to do." There were several people that wanted to put on benefits for me or wanted to put on fundraisers. Mitchell didn't have life insurance. A lot of people knew that, but none of this has ever been about my financial burden personally. And so when people kept badgering me about it and pushing me for it, I was like, you know what? This if we're gonna do this, this is how I want to do it. And so I brought it to my post and I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And they were like, all right, these are the people you're going to have to call. You coordinate this, figure out what stocks you're going to do, figure out this, figure out that, make sure everything's good, and then we'll support you. And that was wild to me, to be 100% honest. That was so wild to me because I have never like been a part of something like that where the impact it was expected to put everything together. And maybe if I would have just like nailed down those spots and then took it back to them, they would have took over. But at that point, I was pretty determined. I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, then let's do it, guys. Let's do it all the way out. And one thing that I really wanted to do was to make sure that we brought those resource tables in. So at the end of the poker run, we did. I thought my phone was on Do Not Disturb, and it actually is. It's just that my mother straight through Do Not Disturb. She's not or exclusive to that one. But at the end of this poker run, so we did 5 stops. We started over at the Harley Davidson, and then we went over to 122 or 133, 122, the VFW, and then we went back over to like my side of town where I've been bartending for like the last 10 years. And there was a lot of reasons that we chose to do it that way. But at the end stop, I made sure that we had resource tables. So we had several different veteran affiliated nonprofit organizations that are all mission oriented in the mental health and reintegration of U.S. military members, active and retired. And so that was something that was so important to me, because I feel like a lot of the frustrations that Mitchell felt were because he didn't know about any resources outside of the VA itself. And that is such a hard thing to get through. Like, I know me, and I'm sure y'all being here have dealt with the VA. And I know that there's a very small exclusion of people that have great experiences with it. But for the majority, most people that I talk to have the same experience that me and Mitchell did. And that's that you can't get through. You can't talk to anybody. Like every time you want to make an appointment, you have a new doctor. So you're having to restart everything. Like, he actually passed with a 0% PTSD rating for a missed appointment due to the one letter that they sent him that I can't even prove that he got. So like there's the community care is hard to access. And when I went to a town hall meeting, they were like, what can we do? And I'm like, make community care more available to these veterans. We created community care so they can get references outside of the VA, and you can't even get it. You have no idea how many times I had to call in 1 week just to get him a community care outside reference to get his neck looked at. And he had a bulging C vertebrae in his neck. He was waking up every night, beating his hands up against the freaking nightstand because he couldn't get rid of the static feeling that was hurting so bad. He had 3 fused discs in his lower back. He was on top of the mental health problems that he dealt with the PTSD and the moral injury and the depression and the alcoholism. he did have like issues from being over there, and he was wounded over there. So he had the physical issues as well. And when he couldn't get through the VA, all that did was add to the stress of everything else. And when it's so hard to get anything done, it creates this sense of hopelessness. Like, why try? Why should I keep going? I'm 38 years old. It hurts to get out of bed. I can't hardly sleep. Nobody cares to help me. I've been walking around the last 7 months of my life with my glasses held together with electrical tape because I can't get a fucking general practitioner appointment. You know, like, it creates a point of why ask for help? Why keep trying? Because we can't get help. You know, and I didn't know about VSOs. I didn't know about all these organizations that provided mental health services to veterans completely for free outside of the VA. And I would tell him, babe, just go to a psychiatrist. Just pay the copay. Like, who cares if the VA pays for it or not? Who cares if the government pays for it? You know, and he stood fast. No, I fought for it. I got blown up over there. You know, like, they should pay for it. They should take care of me. This shouldn't be this hard. You know, and that's how a lot of veterans feel. They go at it like bullheaded, and the first time they get shut down, they quit. And we try so hard from my perspective to let people know that it's okay to keep going. But it's also terrifying as a veteran to walk into an organization as a single person and go, hey, man, I need help. Because you've been conditioned to not ask for help. You've been conditioned to just put on your big girl panties and deal with it. You know, so it's very complicated, even when you find those resources, to like have the strength to ask for help. And that's why it was important for me to have the participation with the resource tables, because not only does it put you in front of those resource tables, but now you're watching your brothers and your sisters go up and interact with them. It's showing you from example that it is okay to ask for help.
Yeah. So there's a comment on TikTok that says, especially for nerve and spine pain, they just deny pain treatment for fear of addiction. And when I had my total knee replaced, totally, the doctor's like, well, I'm gonna give you hydrocodone. And I'm like, that's Tylenol for me, because in the Marine Corps they give us Motrin like candy, and I'm like, that doesn't work for me. And he goes, well, that's what I can give you. And I'm like, okay. So man, Gunny can probably relate to some of that. I know me, I can't relate to some of that, but I know Gunny, after having 46 surgeries, I'm sure he has moments where he wakes up in pain and stuff like that. So
I had to make sure
also,
my mic.
Mitchell didn't want all those pills. He didn't want to feel out of his head. You know, he already had issues with like his vertigo and stuff. So you pop a tramadol on him, and he can't function for the rest of the day. You know, and like, you knock his vertigo out, he's done for 2 or 3 days. The only thing he said he could do was sit in a bathtub and go underwater to try to keep the room from spinning. But it was so frustrating watching him suffer. It was so frustrating watching him hurt and not feeling like I could do anything about it. And there's so many people that at this point, they ask like about the fact that they didn't see it coming. And I'm like, how did you not see it coming when I was at those mountaintops begging for help? Like, I was reaching out to anybody and everybody that I could, that I trusted, without broadcasting it across the world about the prior attempts. But I was reaching out to his friends and being like, hey, look, maybe don't tell him that I told you this, but like, check on him, make sure he's good. But once you get to that isolation stage too, it was so indebted that he would have told you that nobody was reaching out to him. And I've seen his phone, and that's not right. You know, like, there were people that were reaching out to him, and it wasn't what he was wanting to hear. So he was ignoring it, but it was because it took so long for people to get to that point. There were several messages of him reaching out to people, and nobody ever wants to reach back until it hits crisis error. And that's why I really didn't want to have 988 at the resource tables. And I did decide to let them come in, because at the end of the day, they are a crucial point for veterans. Even though I have my own issues with them, there was no welfare check sent out. Mitchell did call 988 that night. And while they couldn't have saved him, they probably could have saved me from having to find him like that. You know, so it was I have my own issues with that, and I try to keep them to myself because I understand that that's not everybody's experience with it. Sometimes it's a life-saving service, so I allowed them to be there. But I want to talk about, like, how can we stop it before it gets to that point? Why are we waiting until it's an absolute crisis before we want to start helping people?
Yeah,
that's a VA issue as a whole, and has been for a very long time, right? So I met a Green Star dad many years ago. I was speaking for a national nonprofit that no longer exists. So their platform was post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and veteran suicide, right? And how can we minimize that? Well, while speaking for them, it's, researching the VAs and talking with the VAs and at the VAs. I have one negative experience with my VA, and it was just misinformation from a doctor to the staff, and then the staff spreading that misinformation, right? But other than that, the mental care here in Cincinnati, at the Fort Thomas location, is top notch and has been since I retired in 2011. The medical care is up there as well, but that's my experience, not everybody's. But I met this dad, and we were speaking in Washington, D.C., and he was telling how his son went to the Atlanta VA twice after attempting twice, and the Atlanta VA told him, your case isn't severe enough. And then the young man went home, wrote a letter, and succumbed to his demons at his parents' house because he knew that somebody would find him, right? Another case here in Dayton, Ohio, where the guy went to the VA and wanted to be admitted, told them that he was contemplating. And they're like, there's nothing we can do for you. And he committed suicide in the parking lot. So it's a VA problem. Right. That's where we need to fix it. And as veterans, we're stubborn as hell. And there's a speech out there somewhere when I was speaking in DC, and I said it right in front of a bunch of congressmen and other influential people. I was a gunny, 14 plus years. There was nothing wrong with me. Well, there was something wrong with me, and then you're told it's all in your head. You're right. It is. Post-traumatic stress is in your head. That it's that soul wound. It's that moral injury. Traumatic brain injury is in your head. It's an actual injury to your brain. Right. So those thoughts and ideations and everything else that are there, and like Willis said earlier, unfortunately, my wife knows pretty much everything about my service because she was there every time I spoke. But when it came time for like my kids, I tried to protect them from it until Barrett Jackson. And then, my son pulled me aside and asked me why I acted the way I acted. So I think he was 5 or 6 at the time, he knew more about post-traumatic stress than most adults do. So the problem is with the VA and us as veterans being stubborn and not wanting to reach out, not realizing that it is okay to be not okay. Right. And it took me a very long time to realize that it's okay to have post-traumatic stress. It's okay to have the traumatic brain injury, and then I still to today, I've been retired for almost 14 years. The wife and the kids still take the brunt of it sometimes.
It's
so
much harder to ask for help than it is.
Absolutely.
Well, especially situations like I was just talking about, like, where is the VA held accountable? And they feel no accountability for even just those two right there. But when there's so much more that could have been done just in that moment. Anything better than sorry.
So
I have the messages, and when he reached out to them, like, their response to him was, we understand that you've tried to hurt yourself before. Are you thinking about that now? And his response to them was, right now, no, which speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all on script.
To which his response was, "Have a good night." And outside of that, that was probably 15 minutes before he called me. And it was just, I don't remember a whole lot after actually finding him. I can't tell you how long I stood there. I can't tell you how long it took me to call 911. I can't tell you what I said to them. I can remember just being on my hands and knees and looking for my dog up underneath the bed next to, we'll leave that one alone. And I remember calling his mother, and I'll tell you right now that finding him was traumatic, but nothing will ever be as scarring as telling his mother. And hearing her wail, that is the sound that hurts more than anything in the entire world. Like, I don't ever feel bad for me in that situation. I feel bad for her. And outside of like how people assume that they're like, "Oh God, you had to do that. Like, how are you feeling?" And I'm like, who cares? Because all I can think about is how scared and how lonely he must have been in those last few moments, and how terrifying. And that breaks my heart to think that that was probably the most human that Mitchell felt in a very, very long time, was those last few seconds of his life.
Mm.
Yeah, I've been. We lost one of my teammates. Gosh, it's probably been 2000, 2001. I don't know, somewhere in there. But I would get a phone call from his wife. Call him. And I can't tell you how many times that I heard the decock, and how many times that we had the conversation. And like you said earlier, it wasn't an if, it was when. And with him, I knew that it was going to be a when. And when the phone call came, it's what else could I have done, right? And sometimes it's we look at the post-traumatic stress side of it, but sometimes it's the TBI, because it affects a portion of the brain that affects cognitive function, or the right or wrong in situations. But sometimes there's also a debilitating brain injury where there's actually deterioration of the brain, right? And I don't know myself. I can't have an MRI. I've got too much shrapnel in my body, so they can't tell me what my brain looks like, other than going through a CT and seeing light gray, dark gray areas of what's dead, what's not. And so, and then you got to look at the Alzheimer's and dementia and all this other stuff that's going along with it. And even at a young age, the things are happening just because of the portions of the brains that are being affected by concussive injuries, or things like that. And I've lost nine friends, and there's no rank that there's there's no creed, color that it discriminates against. One of my first roommates, the hardest thing I had to do was, spread his ashes at the obstacle course at 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, because that was one of his last wishes. A sergeant major that Willis and I served with, a lieutenant colonel that I served with. And then my teammate, as we're at the crematorium, they're like, "Sam will do it." I'm like, "Well, what's Sam doing?" You're going to fold the flag. You're going to lead that. Really? As much as that I tried to help him, now I have to lead the flag folding ceremony. Second hardest thing I've had to do in my life. And I cannot imagine what you are going through, let alone what you went through. And I applaud you for your strength on coming here today and talking about your life events and trying to help those who may be struggling still, find an answer or find a resource. And it's not just the VSOs, right? There's other not-for-profit organizations out there that want to help veterans and the families and first responders. And, no one talks about that aspect of it. First responders see things that the average veteran may never see on almost a daily basis. And, so those resources are out there. You just have to look in your area. And sometimes you have to go outside your area to find those resources that can help get you on a more clear path.
It's all about, finding the resources out there that the veteran can connect with, like outdoor therapy or adrenaline therapy, like if they like skydiving or if they like race car driving cars fast, or just going out and sitting out in the nature, or equine therapy, whatever. Finding those resources and bringing them to the light. Like with HomeFront Sitrep, that's our main mission, is to find these mom and pop grassroots nonprofits out there that still care about us as veterans and not us as numbers, because the VA look at us as numbers. There's a lot of your larger nonprofits out there. Oh, you're just a number in the cog in the wheel. No, we're not. We're humans just like everybody else out there. Yes, we might have our struggles on a daily basis, but we're not broken. And we need, sometimes we need help, and sometimes we don't know how to ask for that help. And we need to break that stigma of, hey, I'm a big strong Marine, I'm not supposed to ask for help. Because I'm gonna tell you now, I got out in 2004 and I didn't start going to the VA until 2023, I believe it was. Yeah, 2023. And my wife would tell you, she asked me constantly, hey, you need to go to the VA, you need to go to VA, you need to go to VA, you need to go to VA. And I was like, oh, I don't need that. I'm fine. I'm fine. And all along, my PTS and my anger, my anxiety was all getting worse and worse. And I can see the process of going through the VA, right? And trying to get help outside of the VA through community consult. It's painstaking, especially because I got a full-time job, and then the VA is like, well, you need to be here for this appointment this time. I'm like, well, I can't make that appointment because I'm working. Well, you need to be here for this appointment. I work a full-time job Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturdays. You have to work with my schedule so I can come there to get the help that I need. And a lot of times the VA is like, no. So now it's to the point where I'm like, before I even start the process, I'm like, hey, I need community consult set up first, and this is the reason why. And so, like my therapy for my PTS and stuff is through community consult, and I'll go to work, leave work, and go straight to my therapy appointment, and then come home. Um, but the VA is designed for us as veterans to get frustrated, to quit pursuing. The red tape that we have to jump through to get help should not
It's
be
just
there.
another stressor. It's just another stressor. And if I may, just one thing that I feel like I don't agree with the most on Mitchell's death certificate is the fact that his contributing factor is PTSD. And while he did have PTSD, it really wasn't the end result for him. It was that moral injury. And I think it's so important that people understand that there is a very big difference in moral injury and PTSD, with PTSD being a disorder and moral injury being a psychological response. Moral injury is something that follows you everywhere you go. It is not triggered like PTSD. It is not flashbacks. It is it's a self-reflection on yourself. And at the end of the day, that's really what ended Mitchell, was the fact that he felt like a monster. He 100% believed that he was a monster, and he wasn't by any means, but I feel like that's why he was so nice to everybody, why he was always trying to do things for people, because he was trying to find some type of salvation or redemption for everything that happened over there. And when people hear of that moral injury, like, yes, they think of like what you had to witness or what you did, but they also they forget about the side that's like the perpetrator side. You know, like when you had to do what you had to do over there, and the way that I try to explain it to some people, and I hope I don't get y'all in trouble for saying this way, but like if somebody were to walk up to me and my mother and take her out right in front of me, right? I would end that person gladly, and I would enjoy every second of it. So the moral injury doesn't come from what I'm doing. It's coming from the fact that I liked it. It's coming from the fact that like these people are going to war. They're watching their brothers and sisters be eliminated right in front of them. Now they turn around and they're having to do the same exact thing and they enjoy it. Then they come back here and everybody's telling you that's not okay. You can't feel that way. You are broken. You're a monster. And you're not. That is a psychological response. That is nature. That is fight or flight. You can't blame yourself for how you react in that situation. That's where people miss the point. And sort of like, well, you shouldn't feel bad because you had to do it. They don't feel bad because they had to do it. They feel bad because they liked it.
Yeah.
No, and that's absolutely. A hard truth. That's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. And a lot of people won't admit it, and it's fine. You don't have to. A lot of people won't tell their spouses about it because they're terrified that their spouse is either going to be afraid of them or they're not going to love them. But at the end of the day, as a spouse, I knew what you were going over there to do. I knew you were fighting and I wanted you home. So I knew that meant you had to do what you had to do to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most spouses that are not dependents and strictly dependents will understand that.
Yeah. And the service doesn't help you reintegrate when you come back home either, right? They send you to some BS classes. They give you a survey, right? So you're not going to be, especially, I'll just throw out there, especially in the combat arms fields, right? If you're in the infantry, and we'll go Marine Corps, if you're in there, you're not going to answer that truthfully because you still want to lead and train and mentor Marines to do what is necessary to get the job done. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm sure it's like that in the special operations community. I'm sure it's like that in the Army infantry. But I will tell you, in the Marine Corps infantry, when I had to do that stupid friggin' survey, whatever they needed to hear for me to stay.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And I also don't want to say that like just moral injury comes from enjoying it. Because like, yes, obviously it does come from things that like you witnessed that you couldn't do anything about that you agreed with. That is still very real. I'm like revising what I'm saying here in my head. I just want people to understand that side of it because it feels like so many people overlook that point, and it's so important. And I feel like if we're all going to be honest with each other, especially as veterans that have been over there, they have felt some kind of glimmer of that they don't want to admit to.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to speak on the moral injury that Gunny and I both kind of share in common. We were in Haiti, right? And the stuff that we saw in Haiti as an 18-year-old, fresh out of the United States, we saw people with burning tires on them and they're screaming. We were told we couldn't do nothing to help because it was
nothing for Haitian on Haitian violence at all, just because of the mission we were there for.
Yeah, we couldn't help. The people getting drugged by vehicles with comm wire wrapped around their neck, or the ones coming up to the gate with their hands chopped off and blood spurting everywhere. We were told we couldn't help. And I didn't know for the longest time that the PTS and the moral, I didn't even know about moral injury until recently. And, it's something that we have to look at as a community. And the VA has to start recognizing it as well. Because a lot of the VA and a lot of the government entities, there's no difference, but there is a difference.
And treatment's not the same.
The treatment's not the same.
That's why it's important to know that it's different because you can't treat it the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dr. James says, so proud of you, Sam. You brought a community together this weekend centered in hope. So, and then Sunnyside said, "You are amazing, Samantha. Love you, and your strength is inspiring." That's some comments on TikTok, because you can't see the TikTok comments that are coming through.
I
So,
can't. And I hear that all the time. I hear the strength, and I've talked to Sunny about that, like you're so strong. This is so strong of you to do. And guys, I don't feel strong. I don't feel like I'm being strong about anything. If anything, like sometimes I fall to that same stigma. If I was being strong, then I could just let it go and be what it is, but like I do feel broken. I do feel crushed by this in ways that I can't explain to people. And yes, at this point, it feels a little calloused when I talk about it, but I promise you not, I cry about it every night when I go to sleep. But it's just because I've had to repeat this story over and over again because I think it's so important that people hear it. And when I'm crying about it, all they want to do is feel bad for me. And I don't want you to feel bad for me, okay? I'm not here for sympathy by any means. When I post a video, I don't want to see, "I'm so sorry, Samantha." I would so much rather see much respect for Mitchell. The world was sorry to have lost him. Like, thank you for your service. Like, I would rather see those things than sympathy for me because it's not about impact relief for me. I don't care about how we take care of widows. I don't care about how the government takes care of me. I want to figure out how we can stop making widows. How can we stop that part? Because I don't care how much money you give me, what color star you put on me, or anything else that you have to offer me. At the end of the day, I would so much rather have my husband back.
yeah. Yeah. So my wife right here says the strongest warriors believe they aren't even doing enough. And then James Thornton says warriors have more muscles on the inside. And I know it's the cliche. Oh, you inspire me because you have lost somebody that was very important. You lost a piece of you, part of your soul, your heart. There's an empty void there, and you've picked up the mantle to bring light to getting help for us as veterans, because we need the help, because like I said earlier, we don't want to ask for help. Gunny and I don't like asking for help, and other veterans out there don't like asking for help. And the government, like I said, sees us as numbers, and that's where people like you come into play and say, "Hey, enough is enough. We need to end the 22 a day." Because we're broken, and we do have our demons.
But
And
you're not broken beyond repair.
right,
That's what
you're
the
right.
VA and everybody else is trying to tell you is that you're broken and you can't be fixed. And that is so wrong. And if that were true, then I'm broken too. Because now I'm stuck in a place where I carry his demons and mine, and it's extremely hard for me to talk about it, and it's extremely uncomfortable. If you ever go back to my first interview, I won't look at the camera. My hands are constantly doing this, because I'm super uncomfortable. And everybody's always going to ask me if you're comfortable with this, Samantha. Are you comfortable? No, I'm not comfortable. I don't want to be comfortable. I don't want you to be comfortable. None of us should be comfortable talking about this ever.
Agreed.
And we have to step outside of that comfort zone to fix this, to get help, to bring awareness. It's all about stepping out of the comfort zone.
And that's the hardest part, especially you're looking at these veterans. They don't want to be uncomfortable because they're already uncomfortable. So putting themselves in a position where they're more uncomfortable is just, vulnerability is hard. And it's like, I can't say how much I appreciate you being on here today, because not everybody can do what you're doing. And I know you don't feel strong, and not in no way comparing, but Willis, you know that for 4 years, I dealt with so much of what you dealt with without the ending. And that life is hell. And not thinking you're strong, Sam, you were strong as shit, because you kept going. You made it through it, and you're still going, and you're still trying to recognize Mitchell. And you can't ever let that name go. because he was so important, and he did sign a line, and he served his country, and he did the things that 90% of the country wouldn't do, and he deserves to be recognized in all the light. And what I love about you coming on here and being able to share your story, and it's hard, and there's things that you're not sharing, and nobody could ever expect you to, but the things that you are pointing out and the things that you're talking about that people don't talk about, I think are the most important thing. Where, you're talking about how there are times where they go and there's that repercussions and they enjoy it. Nobody realizes that, and nobody wants to talk about it. And the biggest problems are the things that nobody wants to talk about because it doesn't feel good. I don't see what's the difference in talking about something that makes them uncomfortable or showing pictures of kids with cleft lips on TV. Like, it makes people uncomfortable, but you still talk about it because you need to know about it. It needs to be taken care of. So what is it that we do to hold that VA accountable to go, this is what you are designed for. It is your sole purpose to help our veterans when they are in crisis, nonetheless. The saddest part is that VA is created to do that for our veterans, and you see this boom in VSOs happen because they're not being taken care of where they're supposed to be taken care of. But the great thing about all these VSOs coming together, they're creating their own community, and they're trying to figure out a way because nobody else is doing it for them. Thank you. Thank you for sharing what you shared today.
Here's a comment here, Samantha. It says, thank you for talking about moral injury. Hope the VA gets with it eventually, but I know at least here in the Black Hills of South Dakota, there is a moral injury group, but it's not through the VA. I think it's through Volunteers of America.
There's not a lot of people out there that want to recognize what moral injury is. And when they do recognize it, they think that it's just a branch off of PTSD. And while I believe that moral injury, if you're having a triggered moment with PTSD, that moral injury absolutely fuels it and creates a worse situation. Moral injury is all about guilt. It's all about self-reflection and shame and how you feel about yourself versus like PTSD being fear-based and it's reaction-wise. It has to do with like you thinking you're back in a place. PTSD is when I hear an ambulance go by my house and then all of a sudden I'm standing in the middle of the street on my knees screaming, like in my head. That's what I hear. That's what I see. That's PTSD. The moral injury is the fact that like I sit here on TikTok or wherever and I do everything that I can to help people. But at the end of the night, like I sit there in bed and go, what are you really doing? How are you helping anybody? Mitchell's dead. Okay. You don't have a great success rate going right now. Like how can you help anybody if you couldn't help him? So that's my own moral injury biting at me. And I have my what ifs, like what if I'd have called him back? What if I'd have took off work? And you have to have those reality checks with those what ifs, because what if he'd have done it right in front of me? What if he'd have taken me with him? You don't want to believe those things, but you never would have believed what happened. So you can't make a judgment call based on the in the moment thing. Like I want to be like, if I was there, he wouldn't have drank because he was trying to hide it. So how long would have it took? Like there is no what if in this world, only what is. And this is what is. And none of this that I do is to help Mitchell because Mitchell's gone. There's nothing I can do to help Mitchell anymore. This is using Mitchell and his story to help. If I just help one veteran not sit where he sat, if I help one spouse not have to have a folded up flag for a man or a woman that we lose on this side of the war, that's crazy. They made it back just to be over here. And as a spouse, yes, absolutely. I never went to war over there. But when it came to him, I went to war with him every single day that he was home. And that doesn't get recognized enough against all the spouses out there. They get scarlet letter if they can't deal with a veteran that is losing their mind and refusing to talk to them and isolating from them and being hateful and dealing with that depression and everything. And they get said, well, you're a terrible person because you can't be with this person, because you can't deal with their issues. But you don't realize what their life is like, what they're dealing with every day, what that person, that veteran, is doing to them because of what they're going through.
Yeah. And I may be asking this too soon because you said it was November. It was 24 of 2020.
Yes, this past November.
Do you have?
It was Thanksgiving.
Do you have thoughts or plans to continue what you're doing? Because I know that this poker run was the first thing that you.
Oh, my phone's dying. No.
Her phone's dying.
No.
Let's see if she gets plugged in. So I'm Julie. I'm hoping she's still there. And she can come back.
Yeah.
Like I said, this episode was going to be very.
I can't help but think about Fitz and Ron and Lieutenant Colonel Hart and Heather and Sergeant Major Shine and Haas and Rory and Mike Skinner and KCO. Guys and girls that I served with, guys and girls that were my teammates, guys and girls that either on Team Fast Tracks, Team Rubicon, or guys that I have met through other places. And it sucks that I have a list of names that's that long of guys and girls that are no longer here because they succumb to their demons, and when we go to war, conflict, whatever, that there's a higher chance that it's going to happen. That shit shouldn't happen at home.
Yeah,
at all.
I agree.
So Sam, what I was
about that. And
no,
I just texted you as my phone was shutting down. What are we doing after the poker run? That's what you were asking, right?
Kind of, because I don't because I know it's soon, and honestly, you don't know what you're going to be doing a year from now, and you might not know what you're doing tomorrow. But I didn't know if there's been any thoughts or talk that, with like Willis was saying, he went to the gala and met the guy that's doing the Green Star Initiative here in Kentucky, trying to get that started. Is there something where you're at, or is there something that you're wanting to put your feet into?
Well, as of right now, I'm definitely going to make my poker run an annual. So I'm going to work on how I can make that better and how we can add more resources to that to continue to bring the community in, because I feel like getting involved is the most important thing that we can do. I did just recently quit my bartending job. I have 5 jobs, guys. So I stay really, really busy. But I did quit my main one. And I'll still pick up a little bit, but it was where I was when it happened. And I remember walking into that room and hearing his voice for the last time. And it took me months to figure out what it was, but it was really messing with me and bothering me. So I ended up leaving. And then outside of that, alcoholism played such a big part in what I dealt with that I just don't feel very good about enabling it anymore. I have no issues with drinking in moderation if that's what you are able to do. Even I drink in moderation. But there's always going to be that 10% of people that you see and serve that can't. And I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be forced to give you that drink, and it's not my place to tell you have a problem. So I've been separating myself from that. And I did sit around and try to figure out, what am I going to do from here? Because I've been in the industry for 10 years, that's what I'm good at. And I don't know what else I want to do. And that was a big fight with me and Mitchell all the time. So that's another reason I have to leave it around, because every time I walk behind that bar, I hear his words, whether they were alcohol fueled or not. I hear him yelling at me, "You will never be anything but a bartender." I hear those words constantly. And that was his way of motivating me to get out of it. Was it right? No, but it was what it was. That's how he did it. And so that's what haunts me. That's what I think about. And so for now, I'm going to, and I've reached out to all these resources that I brought in, and I've told them all that if they need some kind of volunteers during the time that I'm doing research, I would love to do that with them. But I plan on in the next year or two just doing a bunch of research, volunteering with a lot of nonprofits, and then looking to do what I can do to open my own foundation. I don't want to open a nonprofit. I want to open a foundation that can feed into the nonprofits that I believe are doing more. There's always going to be the disconnect. No matter how much people tell me that my story is unique or that it's relatable or that I'm reaching the veteran community, there's always going to be those veterans that are there going, you don't understand because you're not a veteran. There's always going to be that disconnect. No matter how hard we try to break that stigma, I don't want to be the person that's being shit on because I'm not a veteran, even though I do have a unique placement in it. It's easier to feed into those veteran run organizations. And on top of that, I feel like when you take so many small organizations and you fit them into one little area, now you're competing for funds. For what? Now we don't have enough funds to actually help anybody. We're just throwing band-aids on problems. I want to be an entity that can make real change. But for that to happen, I am still in a vulnerable place. I still am like where my life isn't extremely sustainable. And I'm not going to jump headfirst into anything right now when it comes to building a foundation or an organization just because I want it to be successful. And nothing will ever be sustainable until I am. And so I'm just taking the time right now to kind of heal. I'll still continue to post my videos on TikTok. If anybody on here knows me, knows what I do, like the very first videos I did, I didn't even speak. I don't talk at all in my educational videos. They were about Mitchell. They were about the things that he deals with or dealt with, the ways that you can cope with it. We talk about TBIs. We talk about moral injury. We talk about PTSD. We talk about statistics. What are they? What contributed to them? How can we deal with them? I'm kind of doing that on the sidelines as I build my knowledge from all these other organizations that I've now gotten into contact with so that I can do something bigger and better. I just want to do it successfully.
What is the best way for people to find you on TikTok? Because there are people that are going to want to hear your story and the things that you've talked about, and whatever way we can spread that for people to follow you and learn something.
I'm pretty sure if you just type in Bassett, I'm going to pop up. I'm all over the place when it comes to the word Bassett. I hashtag Bassett all the time. That is Bravo, Alpha, Sierra, Sierra, Echo, Tango, Tango.
Well, Sam, I want to thank you for coming on here and telling your story and talking about the things that you've done and that you're going to do. I know it takes a lot to come on here, and it is very emotionally draining. And like people have said in chat here and on TikTok, you're an inspiration to them. And I'm gonna tell you right now, we at HomeFront Sitrep, we're going to support you any way we can. And if you need anything from Gunny, myself, or Candace, feel free to reach out to us anytime. I've been in the nonprofit world since 2004, so I know a lot about nonprofits. Gunny's been involved with nonprofits a long time. Candace runs her own nonprofit. So we can help you any way you want. Anything that you need, reach out to us, and we will definitely help you out for sure, because I think your mission of spreading awareness to bring light to the situation of what's going on is amazing. And then my brother Ty at Triple Threat Vets podcast says he's got your 6 as well. We have you're very, very welcome. We have a very large community here within the HomeFront Sitrep network, and we got you for sure. So thank you again.
Anything I can do to help y'all, let me know. I've got
Yes,
some pretty powerful insider knowledge when it comes to things, and I know that you think there's so many veterans out there that think they're alone, that think that these are the only thoughts that they're going through just their brain alone, but it's not. It's really not. And I wish I could have got that across to Mitchell, that these thoughts are so common. It is so common to feel this way, to think this way. It is human nature, and you are not alone when you feel that way.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like Sam would be wonderful to have on the tip of the spear.
Yeah, we can do that too. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. We'll make that happen. Sam, if you want to hang out just in the green room for a few minutes while we close out the show, that would be
Absolutely.
amazing. But thank you again. It was our honor to have you on here to talk about a fallen brother, your husband, Mitchell Bassett. So thank you again.
I appreciate you. I hope you're going to push me over there because I don't know how to do all that.
I will. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
No, oh my God. I can't thank her enough for coming on tonight. Such short notice.
With
And,
an 8-minute notice, Willis.
yeah, 8 minute notice. She man, I tell you what, when I first heard her story, I'm gonna tell you right now, nobody that was in there, you could hear a pin drop. I mean, it was just like that. It was just like, holy cow, and then everybody just like took her under their wing and just showed her the love that she deserved as a grieving sister. That's basically how I'm going to say it. She's our sister. She's a grieving sister, and for her to be, fresh. November is not that far away. Wasn't that far away.
No.
For her to put on a poker run and have over 200 bikes that registered for this event, and then bringing in all these resources that she brought in, just seeing the videos on TikTok from Sable Warriors and everybody that's posted on TikTok right now from that event, man, I wish we had more people like her in the world, because
Well,
she's a doer, not a sayer, and that's, man, yeah. Yeah, like I said, this was gonna pull.
rough.
This was gonna pull. Yeah, it was gonna. This was gonna pull on some heartstrings. Um, Tassa's great show, Willis, Gunn, and Candace.
Well, and it's not a story. It's not just a story. It's and it's not just a life. There was several lives in that, and then in the different ways that even just the three of us can have some sort of relation to one of those said lives is, you're not alone. When you hear it, you're not alone because you're not reading a book. It's not some bullshit made up thing. This is real life. And how blatantly honest she is about what it was, what led up to it, and where the system is broken. What do we do? Because we try to spread, and we try to educate, and we try to connect, and all of these different VSOs are being created, and they're helping people. They are helping so many people. How do we reach the ones not asking for help? That's how do we do that? Because that, I think, is when you have somebody that has the ability to finally step forward and go, hey, I need you. I need help. I need this. You have how many times that many that they're not going to ask?
Yep.
So where do we go from here to start that, and how do we fix a VA system that is the VA system is broken. It's not our veterans that are broken. It's a VA system that is broken. How do we fix that to make it to where saying you need help isn't a problem? Saying you need help isn't going to get you turned away. How do we do that?
It's all about breaking the stigmas that's out there, and fixing the VA. I don't know. I can't say the VA will ever
VA's been broken since the Vietnam era, right?
Yeah.
That's why most of our Vietnam veterans never went to the VA, because they had extremely bad experiences with them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's been, 40 years, 50 years, and it's still friggin' broken. We can't expect to change this thing overnight, but the people that are in charge of the VA, your local VA, need to be starting to held accountable, right? And when they start to be held accountable, then you have to go national. Then you have to go to Congress. Then you have to go to the Senate. Then you have to go to DC. That's where the change is going to happen. Veterans and the spouses are going to have to come together in a huge way to fix that issue.
I agree. Like I said, it's going to take a grassroots movement. Start locally, like Gunny just said. We got to start locally within our own VA system. Take it to our state level, then take it from state level to federal level. That's the only way that it's going to change.
Yeah. And you look at the unfortunate thing about what Sam was just saying. Oh, sorry, Samantha, that was weird. I didn't even think about that. We had two Sams on until just now. MS. That's my blame. But how she mentioned Mitchell didn't even know there was something outside of the VA.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't.
And then, I'm sorry, I know Michael's watching right now, but like my husband, who is a Marine veteran and didn't even know that he could go to the VA for medical, because he's like, well, nothing happened. Well, that's what it's there for.
Time check. I hate to cut it, but Reach Across America gives us a time limit. So yeah. Gunny.
Yeah, I mean, Sam already said it, right? You're not alone. You still have worth. You still have value. Don't let the dark days win. Surround yourself with people that are going to bring you up, not tear you down.
Love it. Candace.
Be someone's stranger. It's easier to talk to somebody that you don't know. Find somebody, or be that stranger. Sometimes people just need it to get out. You never know when you're going to meet somebody who just needs to talk.
And then ask the next hard question. We talk about it all the time on HomeFront Sitrep. Ask the next hard question. You go up to somebody, you say, hey, how you doing today? I'm okay. I'm hanging in there. I'm living the dream. Those should be key words to look for. That's when you ask the next hard question. How are you really doing? And be ready for that conversation. Could be a 5-minute conversation. Could be a 5-hour conversation. Could be an 8-hour conversation. You have to be ready for that conversation. And then I want to give a shout out to our partners down there at the bottom, Heroes Media Group, Reach Across America Radio, where you can find HomeFront Sitrep Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern on Reach Across America Radio. Listen to you. Link is scrolling across the bottom of this page there, www.reachacrossamerica.org/radio. That's the listen live link. You can go to that. Then I also want to give a big shout out to sameflagsameoath.com. Matt and Becky are amazing people. It's a small veteran owned t-shirt company out in Texas. They are amazing. So go check out sameflagsameoath.com. And then also check out 22toomany.printify.me. Miss Cade, who is 18 years old. Oh my God. Who is an 18-year-old, created 22 Too Many on Printify, and she's got some amazing shirts there as well. So go check out both of those sites if you don't mind. But it is that time of night, like we always say on HomeFront Sitrep. Stay safe out there. We got your six. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your six.